All right, so today we're diving into cybersecurity.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, and I know you're into this stuff,
Oh, yeah, big time.
especially these days with so many of us working remotely.
For sure, for sure. It's a whole new ball game, right?
Right, and today we're going to really zero in on privilege access management, or PAM.
Okay, Pam.
And we've got some interesting sources for this deep dive.
All right, lay it on me.
So we've got some excerpts from some websites and also some YouTube videos
Okay.
by this cybersecurity expert named Bert Blevins.
Bert Blevins.
And he talks about some pretty scary threats
Oh.
you might not even be aware of.
I love that kind of stuff, the stuff you don't even know about.
Yeah.
That's what gets me.
So before we get into the scary stuff,
Okay.
let's start with the basics.
Okay.
What exactly is PAM?
Yeah, so Pam, it's fascinating, actually.
Okay.
Because it's not just some techie thing for IT departments.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It affects all of us. It's about protecting our personal data company information. All of it.
So it's not just about passwords then?
Right. It's way more than just passwords.
Okay.
Think of Pam as a fortress
Okay.
around your most valuable digital stuff.
I like that.
You know, controlling who gets in, what they can do once they're in, and keeping a close eye on everything that's going on.
So like permissions and monitoring too?
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
And, you know, Blevins, this guy,
Yeah.
he really emphasizes how remote work has just blown the doors wide open in terms of, you know, who or what might be trying to get into those systems.
Oh, so he talks about that expanded attack surface, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like working from our home Wi-Fi or the coffee shop.
Yeah, you're not in the office anymore.
Not as secure.
Right. It's a whole different world.
Right.
And it's not just about hackers, you know, from the outside.
Okay.
Blevins points out that a huge percentage of security breaches actually come from inside a company.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Like employees doing bad things on purpose?
sometimes, yeah. But often it's unintentional.
Okay.
Someone clicks a phishing link in an email, downloads a file they shouldn't have. PAM is about minimizing the damage even if something like that happens.
So it's almost like assuming that someone somewhere is going to mess up either on purpose or by accident
Yeah,
and having safeguards in place?
you got that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Blevins talks about building a zero trust environment.
Zero trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you don't trust your employees,
Right.
but it means you don't trust anything by default.
Oh, okay.
They're always verifying, always double checking.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this is different from just telling everyone to pick a strong password.
Right. It's way more than that.
So how does this zero trust idea actually work in practice?
Okay, so Blevins, he breaks it down into a bunch of different strategies,
Okay.
and they all kind of work together.
Right.
One of the most important is something called Identity and Access Management, or IAM.
Okay, break that one down for me. What is IM all about?
All right, so imagine this. You're running a company.
Okay.
You've got all these employees who need access to different systems and files.
Right.
Some people need access to everything.
Yeah.
Some just need a little bit.
Right.
IAM is about having a central system to manage all of that.
Okay.
Who are your users? What are they allowed to see and do?
So not everyone gets the keys to the kingdom, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And IAM makes sure the right people have the right keys to the right doors.
Okay.
And those keys can be taken away or changed easily if needed.
That makes sense. So that's IAM. What else does Blevins recommend?
Okay, so even with the right keys, you still want to make sure it's really the right person using them.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
So that's where multi-factor authentication, or MFA, comes in.
Yeah, I know about this one.
Okay.
It's when you have to enter a code from your phone
Yeah,
or use your fingerprint on top of your password.
you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
And Blevins says this is absolutely essential, even for our personal accounts like banking or social media. You know, it adds that extra layer of protection.
Because even if someone steals your password, they can't get in without that second factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've got IAM for controlling who has access to what, and MFA for making sure it's really them.
Yep.
What else is part of this PAM fortress?
Okay, another strategy Blevins talks about is called just-in-time privileged access,
Okay.
or JIT.
JIT.
This one's pretty clever.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What's so clever about it?
Well, think about it. A lot of security breaches happen because someone has access to something for too long,
Oh, okay.
even if they don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
JIT is about granting access only when it's absolutely necessary,
Okay.
and only for as long as the task takes.
So it's not just about who, but also about when and for how long.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Use this example. Imagine you have a contractor coming to fix something in your house.
Okay.
You wouldn't give them a key that lets them into every room.
Right. Yeah.
You give them access to the specific area they need to work on, and only for the time it takes to complete the job.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
I get it now. So IAM is about the right people.
Yes.
MFA is about verifying it's them.
Uh-huh.
And JIT is about limiting when and where they can go.
Exactly.
What else is part of this PAM puzzle?
Okay, well, you also want to keep a close eye on what people are doing once they're inside the system, right?
Okay, so we're talking about like monitoring what people are doing on their computers.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Blevins calls this session monitoring and recording.
Okay.
It lets you see who's accessing what, when, and from where, and if something seems fishy, you can investigate it further.
That does sound a little Big Brother-ish to me.
I know.
But I guess if it's about preventing security breaches, it makes sense.
Right, it's all about finding that balance, and Blevins is very clear that this kind of monitoring should always be done ethically and transparently.
Okay, good point. So we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah.
We've got IAM,
Yep.
MFA, JIT, and session monitoring.
We're on a roll.
Is there anything else we should know about before we move on?
Okay, well, we've been talking a lot about controlling access to systems and data.
Right.
But what about the devices themselves?
Oh.
Those are potential entry points too, especially with remote work.
Right, like our laptops, our phones, our tablets.
Yeah, exactly.
We might be using them on unsecured Wi-Fi networks,
For sure.
clicking on shady links.
Yeah, and that's where endpoint security comes in.
Okay, so endpoint security, what's that all about?
Think of it as protecting the individual devices that are connecting to your network.
Okay.
Blevins talks about having strong firewalls, keeping your antivirus software up to date,
Right.
and using something called endpoint detection and response tools, or EDR.
EDR. Huh, what exactly are those?
Imagine them as little security guards stationed on each device.
Okay.
They're constantly monitoring for and responding to threats in real time.
Okay.
Like if someone tries to install malware or access sensitive data without authorization, EDR can step in and block it.
So it's like having a bodyguard for your computer.
That's a good way to put it. Blevins says EDR is becoming increasingly important, especially as cyber attacks are getting more sophisticated.
All right. EDR added to the list. IAM, MFA, JIT session monitoring endpoint security.
Yeah,
It's starting to feel like a lot to keep track of.
it is a lot, and we're not even done yet.
Oh boy.
But here's the thing. Blevins emphasizes that technology alone isn't enough.
You mean like even with all these fancy tools, things can still go wrong?
Exactly. The human element is still the weakest link in most security chains.
Okay. I can see that, like, if someone falls for a phishing scam, even the best EDR in the world might not be able to help.
Precisely. And that's why Blevins stresses the importance of continuous training and awareness
Okay.
for everyone who uses technology.
So it's not just about the tech, it's also about people being smart and aware of the risks.
Yeah, kind of like driving.
Okay.
You can have all the safety features in your car,
Right.
but if you're not paying attention to the road, you're still going to have problems.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. And just like with driving, good security habits need to become second nature.
I like that. So to sum up what we've learned so far, Pam, is like building a fortress around your valuable digital stuff.
Yeah.
We've got IAM for controlling access, MFA for verifying identities, JIT for limiting time and scope session monitoring for keeping an eye on things, endpoint security for protecting devices, and the human element, people being aware and making good decisions.
You got it.
And all of this is even more important in the context of remote work,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
where traditional security perimeters have become blurred.
Exactly, because now the office could be anywhere.
Right.
It could be your kitchen table, it could be a coffee shop, it could be...
This is already really insightful.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to learn more about what Blevins has to say about specific threats and solutions.
Well, there's a lot more to unpack, and some of it might surprise you. Let's dive into those details next.
Sounds good. We'll be back with more in part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay, so picking up where we left off, let's talk about a phrase that Blevins uses in one of his videos
Okay.
that really caught my attention.
All right, I'm listening.
He says, cloud security threats you never knew existed.
Ooh. Oh, okay. Now you've got me hooked.
Yeah.
What kind of threats are we talking about here?
So it all comes down to the cloud.
Okay.
You know, companies are using so many cloud services these days,
Right.
and it's easy to lose track of who has access to what.
Yeah, for sure.
Blevins calls this cloud identity discovery,
Okay.
and he says it's a huge blind spot for a lot of organizations.
So it's not just about securing the individual cloud services themselves.
Right.
It's also about about understanding how all those accounts and permissions are connected.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like if you had a bunch of different keys to different rooms in a giant house,
Okay.
but you didn't have a master key
Right.
or even a clear map of the house.
Yeah.
Someone could be sneaking around in a room you didn't even know existed.
Okay, that's a little unsettling. So what's the solution? How do you do this cloud identity discovery thing?
So Blevins says it's about taking a step back and getting a bird's eye view of your entire cloud landscape.
Okay,
You need to identify all the users, the groups, the roles, the services, everything.
right.
And then you need to figure out what they have access to
Mhm.
and how those permissions are connected.
It sounds like a massive undertaking, especially for a large company.
It can be, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But there are tools and technologies that can help.
Okay,
And Blevins argues that it's absolutely essential, especially in a remote work environment where people are accessing data from all over the place.
right, because now it's not just about securing the office network,
Right.
it's about securing everything in the cloud.
Exactly. And here's something else to think about.
Okay,
Blevins says a lot of companies struggle with something called shadow IT.
shadow IT. That sounds ominous.
Yeah, it's kind of spooky.
What is it?
It's when departments or employees sign up for cloud services without telling the IT department.
Oh, I can see how that would happen.
Yeah.
People want to get things done quickly, and sometimes going through official channels can be slow.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it creates a huge security risk.
Okay.
These unauthorized services might not have the same level of security as the company's approved systems.
Right.
It's like leaving a back door wide open.
So cloud identity discovery can help uncover these shadow IT operations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It helps you shine a light on everything that's happening in your cloud environment, both authorized and unauthorized.
Okay.
Then you can assess the risks and take steps to secure those shadow IT services.
This is all making me think about my own digital life.
Huh?
You know, I use a ton of cloud services.
Sure.
Email, file storage, social media, you name it.
Yeah, we all do.
I guess I've never really thought about how all those accounts are connected
Right.
and what kind of access they have.
Yeah, that's something we all need to be more aware of.
Yeah,
And it ties back to that idea of zero trust we talked about earlier.
right.
You can't just assume that everything in the cloud is secure. You need to be proactive about understanding the risks and taking steps to protect your data.
Okay, so cloud identity discovery is about getting a handle on all your cloud stuff.
Yeah, basically.
What other insights does Blevins offer?
He also talks about the importance of something he calls building resilient secrets for disaster recovery.
Resilient secrets? Is this some kind of spy thriller stuff?
I know, right? It sounds very dramatic.
What are we talking about here?
Okay, so in cybersecurity secrets, refer to things like passwords, API keys, encryption keys, all those digital bits of information that are essential for authentication and access control.
Okay, so they're like the master keys to all your digital kingdoms.
Exactly. What does it mean to make them resilient?
Yeah.
It means having strategies and technologies in place to protect them from unauthorized access loss or corruption.
Okay.
Imagine if you lost the keys to your house, your car, your bank account, everything.
Yeah, that would be a disaster.
Total disaster.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so you're getting the picture.
I am, yeah.
So how do you actually go about building these resilient secrets?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Blevins recommends several key strategies.
Okay.
One is secrets management.
Secrets management. Okay, break that down for me. What is secrets management?
So think of it like having a high security vault for your most important digital keys.
Okay.
You use specialized tools and techniques to store, manage, and rotate those secrets,
Okay.
making sure only authorized individuals or systems can access them.
So it's not just about picking strong passwords, it's about having a system for managing them securely.
Exactly, and it goes beyond passwords.
Okay.
It includes all those other sensitive pieces of information that we talked about, API keys, encryption keys, and so on.
So we've got this high security vault for our secrets.
Right.
What else does Blevins recommend?
He talks about the importance of secret rotation.
Secret rotation.
Yeah, this means periodically changing those secrets to minimize the impact of a potential compromise.
Makes sense. It's like changing the locks on your house regularly.
Precisely. And then there's secure backup and recovery.
Okay, so this is about having a plan in place in case something bad happens.
Yeah.
Like a system crash or a cyber attack.
Exactly. You need to be able to restore those secrets quickly and securely if they're lost or corrupted.
Okay.
This typically involves creating multiple backups and storing them in safe off-site locations.
That's starting to sound pretty complex.
It can be, but the good news is that there are tools and technologies that can help.
Okay.
And Blevins also mentions something called hardware security modules, or HSMs.
HSMs, what are those?
They're specialized hardware devices designed to securely generate, store, and manage cryptographic keys.
Okay.
Think of them like Fort Knox for your most critical secrets.
Wow, Fort Knox. So these are serious business.
They are, and Blevins emphasizes that all of these strategies are essential for any organization that wants to protect its data and ensure business continuity in case of a disaster.
It sounds like he's really stressing the importance of planning ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's much easier to prepare for a disaster than to try to recover from one without a plan. And this applies to our personal digital lives, too.
Oh, okay.
We need to be thinking about how we're protecting our own secrets, our passwords, our financial information, everything.
Right, because even if we're not running a company, our personal data is still valuable and worth protecting.
Exactly.
So we've covered cloud identity discovery and building resilient secrets.
Yep.
What else does Blevins dive into?
He talks a lot about the human element of cybersecurity
Okay.
and how important it is to create a culture of security within organizations.
So it's not just about technology, it's about people being aware and making smart decisions.
Exactly. Blevins says even the best security tech is useless if employees aren't properly trained and aware of best practices.
Right.
He's a big advocate for regular security training that's engaging and relevant.
So not just boring lectures about passwords and phishing scams.
No, definitely not. Blevins recommends using real-world examples, case studies, even interactive simulations
Oh, okay.
to make security training more interesting and effective.
That makes sense.
He also talks about tailoring the training to different roles and responsibilities.
Right. A salesperson probably needs different training than a system administrator.
Exactly. And he stresses the importance of having a strong incident response plan in place.
Okay, so what does a good incident response plan look like?
It's like having a fire drill for cybersecurity incidents.
Okay.
It outlines the steps the organization should take in the event of a data breach or cyber attack.
So who does what, how to contain the damage, how to communicate with stakeholders, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And Blevins emphasizes that it's not enough to just have a plan on paper.
Right.
You need to test it regularly to make sure it actually works and that everyone knows what to do.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't want to be figuring things out in the middle of a crisis.
Exactly. And Blevins points out that this applies to our personal lives too.
Oh, okay.
We should all have some kind of plan in place for what to do if our personal data is compromised.
Okay, so I'm starting to see a pattern here. Blevins is all about being proactive and prepared, both at work and in our personal lives.
You got it. He repeatedly emphasizes that a reactive approach to security simply isn't enough these days.
Right.
You need to be thinking ahead and taking steps to mitigate risks before they become incidents.
This has been incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
Blevins covers a lot of ground,
Uh-huh.
technical strategies, human factors, the importance of planning ahead.
He's got it all.
Is there anything else you want to highlight before we move on?
One more thing that stood out to me was his point about the constantly evolving nature of cybersecurity.
Okay.
He says the threat landscape is always changing, and attackers are getting more sophisticated all the time.
So we can't just rest on our laurels and assume that what worked yesterday will work tomorrow.
Exactly. Blevins encourages a mindset of continuous learning and improvement in cybersecurity.
Okay.
To be informed about the latest threats, adopt new technologies, and regularly evaluate and update your security practices. It's a never-ending process.
Okay, so complacency is the enemy. We need to stay vigilant and adaptable.
You got it.
This is all great information.
Good.
I'm ready to hear about what specific solutions Blevins recommends
Okay.
and what actionable steps we can take to improve our own security.
We'll get into those details in the final part of this episode. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into PAM, and we've learned a lot from Bert Blevins.
Yeah, Bubba.
About the threats, the strategies,
Yeah.
the importance of being proactive, but
Yeah.
now let's talk solutions.
Okay.
What does Blevins recommend people actually do?
So he really emphasizes that there's no one-size-fits-all solution
Okay,
when it comes to PAM.
all right.
It's not like you can just buy a magic box
Right.
and all your security problems are solved.
Okay, so no easy button.
Right.
What factors should people consider
Yeah.
when they're looking at PAM solutions?
So Blevins says it really depends
Okay,
on a lot of things.
yeah.
Like the size of your organization, the kind of data you're protecting,
Uh-huh.
and of course your budget. Right, of course.
But in general,
Yeah.
he says to look for solutions that are easy to use, scalable, and integrate well with your existing systems.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't want something that's going to be a huge headache to implement.
Right, exactly. And he talks about both on-premises solutions and cloud-based solutions,
Yeah,
right?
he does. Yeah.
What's the difference there?
Okay, so think of it like this on premises.
Okay.
Is like having your own security system installed in your house.
Okay.
You have complete control, but you're responsible for maintaining it.
Gotcha.
Cloud-based is like having a security service
Okay.
that monitors your house remotely.
Okay.
It's often more convenient and affordable, but you're relying on someone else to handle the security.
So on-premises gives you more control,
Uh-huh,
but cloud-based is often easier and cheaper.
exactly. And Blevins says each approach has its pros and cons.
Okay.
You know, cloud-based solutions can be great for smaller organizations that don't have a lot of IT resources.
While larger companies with sensitive data might prefer the control of an on-premises solution.
I'm starting to realize that PAM is a pretty complex landscape.
It is. It is.
There are so many different options
Yeah.
and factors to consider.
For sure. For sure.
It can be overwhelming.
Right.
So beyond specific solutions, what are some key takeaways that our listeners can apply to their own lives?
Okay.
We've talked about a lot of concepts,
Yeah, we have.
but I want to make sure we're giving people actionable advice.
Sure, absolutely. I think the biggest takeaway is that PAM isn't just for big companies.
Okay.
It's a mindset
Okay.
that we can all apply to our own digital lives.
Give me an example. What's something our listeners can do right now to improve their security?
Okay, let's start with your home Wi-Fi network.
Okay.
Do you have a strong, unique password?
I think mine's pretty strong.
Okay. And have you enabled multi-factor authentication on your router?
Good question. I'm not sure about the MFA thing. I'll have to check that out.
You should.
What else?
Think about your online banking.
Okay.
Do you use different passwords for your banking accounts and other online services?
Okay, yeah, that's something I'm definitely guilty of. I tend to reuse passwords way too often.
Yeah, it's a common problem,
Yeah.
but it's a big risk.
Okay.
You know, if one of your accounts is compromised, attackers could potentially gain access to others if you're using the same password.
Right.
So Blevins really hammers home the importance of using unique, strong passwords for every account.
And enabling two-factor authentication wherever possible, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It adds that extra layer of protection that can make a huge difference.
Okay, so strong, unique passwords and two-factor authentication. Got anything else?
Yeah. Be aware of social engineering tactics,
Okay,
like phishing scams.
right.
Don't click on links or open attachments from senders you don't recognize.
Gotcha.
And be careful about what information you share online.
Right, it's not just about technology, it's also about being smart and aware.
Exactly. PAM is about taking a holistic approach to security, combining technology with human awareness and good habits.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into PAM.
It has been.
I feel like I've learned so much from Bert Blevins' insights.
Me too.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I think Blevins' message is ultimately one of empowerment.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he wants people to understand that they have the power to take control of their own security
Yeah,
and make informed decisions to protect themselves and their data.
I like that.
It's not about living in fear.
Right.
It's about understanding the risks and taking action.
That's a great point, and it's a message that resonates with me. This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to the importance of PAM, not just at work, but in every aspect of our digital lives.
Absolutely.
And remember, security is an ongoing process.
It is.
Stay informed, stay vigilant, and keep learning.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative and empowering. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.